Welcome back, everybody, and sorry about that break in transmission. There has been a massive thunderstorm over Djuma, and that has resulted in the stream being a little bit messed around. So the tech guys have been busy behind the scenes, and now everything's back up and running. But we're still sitting here watching these youngsters at the Hyena Den in the Masai Mara in Kenya. And it's been a hive of activity this morning. So we've decided just to stay put and enjoy it with the youngsters. Look at that. They're all been chasing each other through the grass. And they're also quite confused with the shadow now that's been thrown by our vehicle. There obviously isn't shadow normally there, so they've been quite wary of it, and now they seem to be relaxing. They're coming right up near to our vehicle, and there's been a few comments of people asking or saying that, are we not scared with so many hyenas around us here? No, not at all. I've reassured Archie that we won't get eaten, not today anyway. I did just check that he didn't have any open wounds, that they could smell the blood. No, but I'm just kidding. With us being on the vehicle here with these hyena, there is absolutely no reason to worry. We're absolutely 100% safe, as we are 100% live, watching this female trying to keep her eyes open. Now, Dr. Hyena, you're wondering what would happen if Scarface had to find this den? Well, Dr. Scarface, it would be very interesting to see. I have a very big feeling that if Scarface had to bumble onto this spot without having smelt the probably pungent smell of hyena in the area, it would be quite silly of him, firstly. And if he had to not listen to the warning signs, and that would be the extreme smell of this enlarged group of 80 plus individuals, and he kept walking in here. I think initially the hyena would probably defend the site, and there could probably be a few hyena dying, but I think ultimately Mr. Scar would meet an untimely death, because even if we had to throw half of the hyena from this clan into the mix, you're talking that he would be facing 40 plus hyena. And that's a prospect that I don't think any lion would like to be facing, even though male lions can smack hyenas around like skittles. I think 40 would be a number too much for him. So I would say the best thing would be, and I'm sure that's why there hasn't been any problems from the lions here, they probably steer well clear of this area, because there's just too many of them, and if they get together they do grow an arm and a leg. So, and I've seen them just with about 15 hyena together. Once they rally and they really get very bold, and you can just imagine if you had 40 plus of them together, they would really think that they are very big as a team, as they are. So I would think twice. Any lion coming near here would be in trouble. Now, Gina from British Columbia, you're saying that they're so serene, considering that they can be so aggressive. Absolutely. This is all in their little family space, but it's quite incredible how they can also be aggressive towards each other. But everybody is well within their little space in the hierarchy, and at the moment it's all fun. Nobody's got any problems. They're all just playing with running through the grass, biting on sticks, irritating the adults who are trying to catch a bit of a snooze. They've probably been out all night. looking for food. I wonder if they got any. It's difficult to tell with hyena because unless they really gorge themselves, they don't really look any different if they're fed or not. But these youngsters look terribly happy this morning, and so they should do. They're part of a massive clan that seems to have established itself very well in this area. Always lovely to watch the youngsters, hey? Alright, so there's still too much going on here for us to want to leave just yet. We might leave in a short while, but not before you come back to have another look and see what's happening with the youngsters. But let's head you on over to Taylor and see how she's getting along.
We're not having too much luck. Our day started off unbelievably, but now it seems to be, the luck seems to be fizzling out. So I've met with my friend Noah, who's one of the rangers, and I inquired about that leopard sighting, and I explained to him where it is. He's going there now, and he said no, that is most certainly not an off-roading area. So I'm very happy. We decided to edge on the side of caution. Obviously the last thing that we want to do here, and it's always good to be careful, is go and tear up some ground that shouldn't be driven on. And I think something that we also remember is how sensitive the vegetation along a riverline is, and how important it is also for the animals. So unfortunately no leopard for us, but maybe this afternoon we'll go past there and we catch him out just sitting on the ground. At the moment it seems like he's feeding on a kill up on the top of the browse line, so you can't even see into it. But we'll go back and investigate this afternoon. And then the Angamas, can you believe it? They were up in the forest, where I'd said, below Mara West, and they came down maybe about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. They walked down, but now they've stopped in a little lugger in a marshy section, so we can't go driving there just because we're going to sink. It's filled with water. But no one can see them, so everyone's very patiently waiting for them. That could be something for on the way home. It's right close to the road, the escarpment main road, and then the main road that we're on now. So we'll pop past there in a little bit. What we're going to do though is we're going to try and avoid the crowds, because it's getting very crowded in that section. And we're going to head up to the marsh. So we're going to go back on our usual main road, quickly just see if the jackal are home. I'll have a proper look, and then hopefully they would have warmed up and are maybe now standing up, making it easier for us to see them. Spend a bit of time with them, read you the poem, and then go look for lions. Now, Gilly, you're wondering, how do I know the difference between an off-road and a non-off-roading area? Well, there's a lot of signs, and then we've got guidelines. So we have off-roading permits. Not everybody's got an off-roading permit. So even though, for instance, on this main road, let's use this as a divider, everything to the left of us we cannot off-road on, everything to the right of us we can off-road. But that doesn't apply to every vehicle out here. You have to have a special permit to be able to do that. So this side is fine, but again, you wouldn't want to go off-roading off to the right after heavy rains, because there's a lot of black cotton soil. So just as a guide, we're taught what's right from wrong, what areas are very sensitive, what do they take a long time to recover if you have off-roaded, or things like that. And then we put that into context with whatever situation we're presented with. There, it's a lot of black cotton soil. Again, the vegetation is already quite sparse, so you could see. So going and driving off-road and something like that wouldn't be the greatest thing to do, just because you're not impacting the environment on a positive way. Baboons. Let's have a little look at them. Good morning. A nice troop coming out. Probably roosting in some of these trees along this big lugger. Which we can't see because of the way we're positioned. But this is the bulk of the troop at the moment. Sounds like the youngsters are very unhappy. What's going on? Boys are chasing one another around. So Ralph was telling you yesterday about the social structure of the males and how it's an oligarchy. Not just one dominant male, but a super group of them, if you will. Maybe one of the younger boys is getting out of line. And they were just sorting him out. He seems to have settled slightly though. Look at all the youngsters all playing together. I love how young animals, I suppose it's like humans, how they group up with animals of their own age and play with them. That was so cool, just stripping the leaves off of that, or a bit of grass. What are you eating, some roots? And Julie, you're wondering if baboons smell. I've never been close enough to a baboon. Well, I have been fairly close to them, but I haven't ever noticed a stench coming from them. I'm sure they will have some form of odor, but baboons seem to be quite clean. A large part of their day is actually spent grooming not just themselves, but one another. And they will swim. Rivet monkeys love to swim. Standing up, having a good old scratch. So I'm not really too sure. Maybe Scott or Rolf have experienced baboons up close and have maybe been able to smell what they smell like, but I haven't noticed anything in particular. I've smelt a dead baboon. That didn't smell very nice, but that's also because it was rotting. And that was the main reason for the stench. And we'll just feed. I think they're feeding on grass at the moment, trying to pull up all those roots, make the most of it. Although there's lots of little flowers and seeds for them to feed on too. There's really a nice variety of food that these animals can actually feed on. But for now, I think most of their morning will be spent just warming up. Some of them playing in trees. Dr. Hyena, you're wondering what species of baboon is this? It is the olive baboon. So if Scott shows you a baboon, or Noel shows you a baboon back in South Africa, that is the Chitwa baboon. So these guys are slightly smaller, a lot hairier, and a lot more relaxed. Oh, Manu, look what you're missing. Wait. That was interesting. Was he not too sure about that, the way he was sort of shaking his head? Is that another male? It does look like another male. That must have been a dominance display. Now that little one copying what it just saw. Monkey see, monkey do. Literally. I don't know if I've ever seen a young baboon brave enough to climb on a male. That was quite cool. They are fairly tolerant of one another, though. It's all very exciting here. Oi! It's the theme today. That little baboon, sorry, I'm now blushing, is a little bit young. But of course, when they see one of the big males doing something like that, you know, they are very excited. She looks a bit like she's presenting herself, don't you think? Now, Kristen, you're wondering if the baboons have any other predators other than the leopards. Leopards will be their biggest threat. Humans, unfortunately. There we go. Look at this. Okay, I'll talk about that now. Sorry. But this is very interesting. So, female baboons, you know, don't necessarily wait for the boys to come to them. They actually go to the males, and you can see that, presenting themselves to the boys in order to say, I'm ready to be mated with. Now is the time. And he's not having any of it. He said no twice. Okay. So, sorry, yes. So, leopards are the biggest threat, and then humans, unfortunately, baboons are shot throughout Africa as they're just too clever for their own good. And they realize how easy it is to break into homes, into cars, into lodges. And instead of feeding out in the bush like they should, they'll come through and raid camps. And it becomes a big problem. And they're exceptionally dangerous creatures. Their canines are much larger than that of lions. Another opportunity. Maybe she just wanted to be groomed. But that's typically what they do when they want to mate as well. They present themselves like that. But maybe this is not the case with this one. You just wanted to say, right, there's a tick that's been bothering me for most of the day. Would you mind taking it off for me, sir? Thank you. Now they're going to have a good scratch. Also just goes to show how many parasites they actually have covering their bodies. Lots of fleas and mites and ticks. They have a variety of different things. And it doesn't go to waste either. They'll gobble those up too. Oi, here comes another fight. What is going on with this troop? They're very rowdy this morning. That looks like a female though. Oh, there we go. That's what he wanted to do. He was chasing after her. This is a very frisky troop of baboons. The friskiest troop of baboons I've ever come across in my entire life. I wonder if these boys are going to fight over all the females. Well, she's not happy. Oh my goodness, very exciting. Oh, they're shouting. It was echoing like that because they're in the drainage line now. A couple of baboons making use of the patternwood trees. Nice shade. Nice shady spot. I reckon they'll stay around here. I think it's going to be very, very hot today. And up in these trees and along these banks will probably be the best spot. They're so flexible. I wish I could do that. Hey, Manu, don't you? Right, but before it gets too hot, let's go see if we can find those lions. And see what they're up to. Because I'm sure they're not too far away. I don't think they're... Let's hope there's no one behind me. Otherwise they're going to get reversed into no one behind me. Cool! That was quite a nice little interaction. Interesting. And any of you have never seen mating baboons before, there we go. You got multiple examples. And on that very exciting note, we're going to head back down this way, hopefully to find the jackals and the lions. Ralph is sitting with the hyena den, waiting for you to go and take a look.
Thanks, Taylor. And yes, everybody, we're still sitting here with these little youngsters. They're getting very curious and coming up to the vehicle. Just reminding them that they mustn't get too close because they can very easily get the habit of biting onto your tires, and so we do just remind them a little bit like the adults would do if they need to just teach them their little life lessons. Well, vehicles could be very much a part of their life, and we don't want them to get bad habits of chewing on tires, because that would then probably land them in the place of being problem animals, and then they could land up being exterminated. So we're just teaching them little lessons, as you do with youngsters. And because hyenas, you know, in the past I've had quite an experience with hyenas, and once they start to chew on rubber, they really like it, especially when they're young like that and they're teething, and it's a very nice sensation for them to bite into that rubber. So you can find yourself being attacked by a hyena and literally just chewing on all your tires, because it's a nice feeling for them. And even a little youngster like this could possibly bite right into the tire, landing you with flat tires, and we wouldn't want to be sitting here next to this den trying to change our tires now, would we? So just a little tap on the side of the vehicle then just reminds them that they shouldn't be so close. Now, Joel, you're saying that they just need a teething ring. Well, that's what the leftover bones are for, Jill. So they can rather chew on some bones and some leftover hide from animals than my tires on my Land Rover. Alright, so that's the only reason I'm not allowing them to come in and chew on my tires, added to the fact that I don't particularly want to change my tires in this close proximity to more than 50 hyena. I think if I get under the vehicle here, they might come and have a look and see if I'm alright, and if I'm not, they might drag me off into the grass, and that could be the end of me. But there we go, they're all banding together. Still enjoying, it's still lovely and cool, not too hot, a little bit of a breeze coming through. Now, Gina from British Columbia, you're wondering how to change a tire near to a predator sighting. Well, I've done it many times over the years, Gina. I know it's not ideal, but it's that law that was made up by Murphy. It always gets you into trouble. And what happens is, for me, it's probably about 3 times out of 10. When I see a predator sighting driving off, sometimes you have a puncture. And so you can't just continue to drive because you will destroy your rim. So what I normally do is just try to get enough away from the predators that it is reasonably safe. And then if I've got guests with me, I ask the most obliging of them just to get on top of the vehicle so that they have a very good lookout. Now, while I go in the prone position and get under the vehicle and change the tire. So it's just somebody looking out for me while I get the tire changed as quickly as possible and get back on the road. So that's for me been the easiest way, and it's worked up until now, so I'm going to stick with that method. Put someone on top, get them looking out for you, and then you can quickly change the tire and you're back on the road. So I've had that many times and we've never had a problem. But there you go. Now, Sir Rory, you're saying that you haven't heard these hyenas laughing. You thought that was their thing. Well, Sir Rory, we've just been a little bit unlucky when we are actually on air watching them, because just before you came back to us, there was quite a bit of pandemonium between the little youngsters, and there was lots of going on between them. So you've just been slightly unlucky, but I'm sure if you keep watching, we will sooner or later have them cackling for you. I'm waiting for them to do a whoop here nearby, and I will think that will probably be more likely around sunset or a little bit earlier in the morning than we are able to get here from the gate. But at some stage I'm also going to come and try and spend the night here, and that could be very exciting, because then we might be able to see the goings on over the time when they are the most active, and then we'll get all the cackles and the whoops and the interaction between each other, calling each other, and everybody going off to scavenge and to hunt and to do everything that hyenas do. So it's very exciting having found this den. The possibilities are endless, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of them, and you're going to be seeing me here on many occasions. And it's a lovely way to start the morning. I think shortly we will be moving off a little bit. Now, Crafty Stash, you're wondering if it's smelly here, which is a good question here near to this den. Crafty Stash, absolutely not. There's almost no smell at all, apart from the normal fresh bush smell of the grass and everything. So it's not as you might imagine, like rotting carcasses and everything, because they've cleaned everything up. So there's nothing to smell. They've eaten it all. And I think that's also one of the ways that they would probably try not to bring too much meat all the way here to the den site, and they probably won't have a carcass and feeding off of it right here. They can feed on it at a different location, and then they might come back and sometimes regurgitate a little bit for the youngsters, or bring them back a little bit of a nice drumstick or a hind quarter, but they won't be dragging a whole carcass here. And what does get brought here gets finished very quickly, and so there are some bones dotted around in the long grass, which is quite difficult to see, but they are there. And having looked at some of the bones, there is not a single piece of meat on it. So I'm thinking that might have been handed over to the little youngsters, and they have cleaned it up. And it's surprising, because very often they would also eat the bones as well. That's why I'm thinking that it might have been the youngsters that have been handed these little bones with some meat on it, because they've left the bones. But they maybe also leave the bones because they've had enough other food. You know, they will crunch into those bones and get the marrow on the inside. And hyena being very adept at crushing bones and eating the whole lot. But everybody seems very healthy here. Now, James Richard, you're wondering if this clan has any current or active den sites other than this one. Well, the one that we found just a little way off from us seemed to be one that they have used at least recently, which looked like a bit of a porcupine warren. But this seems to be their permanent site now. And so, having chatted with the lady from Michigan State University, it seems this is their spot, and they've looked after it quite nicely. They might potentially move to even maybe go back to the other one. You know, they're not ultimately clean inside the den, so it can start to smell a little bit on the inside and be a little bit dirty, so they maybe move in a little while. But for the time being, it seems that they are permanently here. So we will wait and see. I'm sure that move is going to take a bit of planning from the female side, because there's a lot of little youngsters here that need to be moved. So it seems that maybe that move from there to here was a very good move, because they didn't need to go very far, and the youngsters could probably have just walked on over by themselves. Having said that, when we first saw that female, she even picked up a little youngster and brought it in over this way. And that's when we left her, and the next day then we came through and found this actual enlarged den, where we thought we had found the den site. We were horribly mistaken, because this is where the action was all happening. But it will be interesting to see, and I hope to spend lots more time with them. Alright, so I think we're going to say goodbye to these little youngsters, and maybe we'll come again and see them this afternoon. But if we don't see them then, it will be in the next couple of days, because remember that we are going to be going across the river in search of those cheetah and whatever else we can find. So soon we will be back here anyway. But for now, let's send you on over to Taylor and see if she's been able to find out where that leopard is.
We are having deja vu at the moment with the same sighting we had the other day with elephants crossing in the exact same path. Now, Ralph, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see that leopard, because he's sitting up in the top of the browse line, and it is a non-off-roading area, so we couldn't get close enough to have a proper look. But maybe he comes out in the afternoon. We'll go searching for him then and give it another bash. Just some youngsters hanging at the back of the herd. It's not a very big herd, it's just a small family. So we'll just let them cross up ahead, and then we will carry on with our journey towards the marsh. Off they go running. Come on now. Move along, please. As there are many cars that are coming up behind us that would also like to cross. But of course the animals have right of way here. Look how dry it is, though. Even when the Ellies are now walking on the road, they're kicking up so much dust. Just have a little push and shove. Careful, because you're going to get to a spot where you can push one another off the edge there. But they'll be careful. They won't be silly enough to do something like that. And of course they'll stop on one of the main roads and just play now. Are they talking to one another? Going... I'm going to wear you now. Looks like he's going to bite him. Oh, the interactions amongst elephant is so incredible. Off they go. Right, that means we can go too. Right, let's go through here. Whee! Through the water. Nothing. One day, Manu, one day we'll get something through there. something spectacular. Bye boys, behave. Oh, we're going here. We're taking an immediate right. Very cheerful this morning, the elephants. So I'm trying to figure out the movements of these two lioness, where they go. So I am hoping that we do find them this morning. The jackals are MIA though. We'll have to try for them in the afternoon as well. Maybe they'll be a bit more obliging. But I would think that from where they were yesterday afternoon, they would have just gone back towards the marsh, because I haven't really seen them up in their usual spots for the last few days now. So we'll check our forest up ahead, see if they aren't laying there, and then check. It opens up quite nicely and there's a massive lugger which we'll follow for quite some time to the next edge of the forest. And I've seen them, it was when I saw them from the hot air balloon, they were sort of doing that, and we have seen them do it a few times where they've walked from the main forest at the back coming back towards the side. So I'm not sure. I can't see very well out of my left eye at the moment, so I apologize if you see, it looks like I'm just trying to drive with one eye. Got so many bugs in when I was trying to get to that leopard sighting, so I'm trying to keep my only good eye on the road now and look for lions. Josh Posh, you're wondering which animal looks more scary than what it actually is. I don't know. Hyenas, although hyenas are pretty dangerous, I don't think they get enough credit, unfortunately. I mean, they're creepy looking creatures. I like them though. But they can quite easily kill humans, especially if you've left your tent open and you're fast asleep. That's when a lot of people unfortunately succumb to hyenas. What do you think, Manu? What animal? A spur-winged goose is not that attractive, and they kind of creep me out a little bit too. I'm trying to think now. That's a hard one. What about a southern ground hornbill? They look pretty mean. I'm sure they could do some damage to you though with those big beaks, but they'd probably fly away from us. Warthogs as well. They don't look very dangerous, but they are very dangerous. I'm not sure. Maybe everyone can give their suggestions on what they think. Hashtag Safari Live. Let us know what you think. Which animal looks more scary than what it actually is. One thing we must remember though is that every animal is potentially a threat to humans. Even something like an impala could quite easily injure and send you to hospital if you get on its wrong side. So you must have a healthy respect for all the animals. Zebra kicking you, my goodness. That would be a disaster. If anyone has ever been kicked by a horse, but kicked properly, not just clipped, you'll know how sore that is. Okay, let's just check here. This is the spot that I was telling you about, but no lions just yet. We might see something different as we go around. There are quite a few trees here which make it difficult to see anything. Ah, yes. Gillian, you said the marabou storks. That's a great one. Very nice. They are funny looking creatures. To me, they don't look scary though. I just laugh at them when I look at them. But they're interesting. But that is a goodie. That's definitely one. Ah, yes, there we go. Annie, you said the geese are terrifying, so I said the spur-winged geese. I think so. And for those of you who have never been chased by a goose before, it's not a nice experience. Even being chased by a group of chickens is pretty terrifying, especially when you're 5 years old. So yeah, no, geese are scary things. I agree with you there. That's one. That's probably the one that I would go for. But if I think of something else, we'll bring it up again and we'll chat about it. Quite an interesting view on things. No lions. I had so much energy this morning and now it's gone. Phew. Joe, you said dung beetles look scary. Never. Oh no, they're the coolest little creatures ever. But I personally don't think dung beetles look too scary. Maybe a rhinoceros beetle. That could be a bit intimidating because they get quite large, and of course they've got that horn. But I like the marabou stork one, and then I definitely agree with the geese. 100%. Okay, so now this is the other spot that these lions could be in. And if they're not here, then they must be... Oh no, they could be anywhere, I can't say that. They could have gone all the way back to the forest last night. We know how far lions can walk in just an evening. So, it's actually a tough one. But we do know some of their local spots, so maybe we'll get lucky. I haven't seen lions drinking for a while. Oh no, well, I also speak utter nonsense. We had that male lion drinking right next to the car the other day. That was very nice. But I miss seeing whole prides of lions going down to Treehouse Dam or Vuyatela Dam. I don't even know how much water are in the dams at the moment in the Sabi sand. But it was always so nice seeing them come down and lining up. We don't see much of that here. Well, obviously there aren't any massive dams. Still nothing. Lions, where'd you go? Yeah, there's very little animals around here, just warthogs and things in the distance, a few buffalo here and there. Nothing spectacular, I'm afraid. Our luck has really changed today. But I think this afternoon is going to be exciting because potential leopard, potential lions, potential all sorts of animals. Yeah, I'm going to go through a little crossing now. I need to engage my 4x4 before I do that. Off you go back across to Ralph. I'm sure he's moved off from the hyenas now, and I wonder what else he's got to show you.
Thanks, Taylor. And yeah, we've moved a little bit away from the hyena, and we've just come across a couple of topi feeding here through the plains. So I thought it would be nice to just stop here and then just give you my three animals that I think are a lot more scary looking than they actually are. And my first one is my ultimate, most scariest thing in the world that is actually totally harmless, and that is a golden orb web spider. They are ghastly looking. They look like they could swallow your head, or at least inject venom into you and just melt you like acid, and I'm totally afraid of them. But they're totally harmless. And I would have to say the second one being that of an egg-eater snake. Not that I'm scared of them at all, but they do coil themselves up and do false strikes, making themselves to be like a cobra, but also they are non-venomous, so it's all a big show, but quite scary if you don't know what an egg-eater looks like. It also looks like a night adder, so very close looking, especially the rhombic egg-eater and the rhombic night adder. They look almost identical and can be very easily confused. So that's my second. And the third being, I would have to say, your little insectivorous bats, because they look horrendous, but they do fulfill a wonderful function of eating lots of mosquitoes, and they also eat golden orb web spiders, which I found delightful. And when I was working in one of the little bush camps in the greater Kruger Park, we used to have an open-sided dining hall. So we just had a thatch roof, and then the sides were open, and the bats used to roost in the top of the thatch. And every evening we used to be able to see what the bats, in the morning we used to be able to see what the bats had been feeding on in the evening. And when it came after the rains, it was very evident that they was feeding on a lot of spiders, because all the legs were discarded after the spider had been eaten on the table where we were having our breakfast. So that it was always full of golden orb web spiders' legs, and lo and behold, there was also baboon spider legs. Now, it must be quite fascinating to watch these insectivorous bats. If you imagine what a golden orbweb spider's nest looks like, it's a massive web. And I've heard from people, I haven't confirmed this, but I've heard that the bats don't fly through the web when they take the spider out. They literally fly up to it and pull it off its web like that, which is extremely interesting if you ask me. And I'm delighted once more because they're destroying my nemesis. But the second one being very interesting as well with the baboon spider, because they're obviously on the other side, they're not araneomorphs, they're not web dwellers, they are mygalomorphs, a very primitive kind of spider, ground dwellers. So they're on the ground and would have to be out of the nest, I would imagine, for a bat to be able to grab them. And so out running on the ground and a bat being able to swoop down and grab it off the ground. Now, why this is also so fascinating and incredible is that because bats hunt through echolocation. So they are sending out a sound and they are judging from the return sound as to the size and the distance and the shape, etc., of whatever they're trying to hunt. So very interesting that they are able to narrow it down and being able to hunt both a web-dwelling spider and a ground-dwelling spider to such precision. For me, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Anyway, it's just one of those things that I find truly incredible. You're saying that just the word spider makes the hairs on your back stand up or on your neck. I'm with you there, Julian. I'm exactly the same. But I don't have a problem with spiders as long as they're not near me. I do like to look at them. I do get that very, we call it a gril in South Africa. I very easily gril for spiders. You know that whole feeling, it goes from the top of your head through your fingers and right down to your toes. You get that, yeah, that's one of those feelings when I think of a golden orbweb spider as big as my hand. Yeah, very scary. So we're heading now down towards the Inselbergs and the river, and I want to see, well, I want to try and see if we can spot a Kirk's dik-dik. We'll be quite lucky if we do. If we don't come right this morning, I will head there first thing in the afternoon and we'll see if we can catch up then. So, whoever was asking for a Kirk's dik-dik, if we don't see it now, you need to come back for the next show because I'm going to make that about you to start off with. But I'm not promising anything, but I will try my best by this afternoon to find a Kirk's dik-dik. Alright, so while we go in search of that little Kirk's dik-dik, we can send you from one little mammal to a massive one, and over to Taylor.
Here we are with a herd of buffalo and a little one that is fast asleep. But don't worry, it is alive. There were a couple of them that were in young calves that were in such a deep sleep. They're actually all sitting down resting. You can actually see, can you see them all there? Just in front of this buffalo there. You can see little ones in the ground. And they don't want to wake up just yet. I don't blame them. This is the kind of morning where I think I struggle most, because you get that beautiful morning light on you and you can't help but close your eyes and just doze off for a little nap. And that's what's happening, and the oxpeckers are taking advantage of that, all piling up on a little calf. Look at this cow, she's so close. She doesn't care. She's staring at us. I think she's looking at you, Manu. Hello, girl. Giving us the real stare, staring into the car. This is so fascinating. Right, now she's moving off. Yes, she is. I think her little one will follow eventually. Richard, you said it looks like her ears are bleeding. I think I can't see any blood or anything. I think what you might be looking at, it's just the coloration of the skin there. It's slightly more pink and hasn't got that dark pigmentation to it like the rest of the buffalo's body has. It's kind of like when you look inside a dog's ear, how it's not necessarily pink towards the tips on the inside, but as soon as you go further into their ears, it is quite pink. So it's not bleeding at all. But there are a lot of ticks and things that hang around their ears. So if you do see blood, what may have happened is maybe you can see all the ticks gathering there just underneath her horn and to the right of her eye. If one of those big ticks that we saw the oxpeckers feeding on today burst, that would create quite a bit of blood as well. Hello, little one. Have you just woken up? Good morning. There's a juvenile oxpecker. Oh, what was that? Look how close it is. That's how close it is to the car. That we can't even get it in frame correctly. Are you awake now? It just goes to show you how relaxed these animals can get around the vehicles. And how privileged we are to see all these beautiful animals in their natural environment. And within such close proximity. It's very special. Especially for such a young animal too. And Mom doesn't seem too bothered. That the fact that the little one is between me and her, otherwise she would have expressed it. Lots of buffalo here all resting. Kobe, you're wondering what is the largest buffalo herd I've seen in the Mara? I haven't seen any exceptional herds. A couple of hundred, I would say, is the largest. I always say the biggest herds of buffalo I saw were down in the Sabi Sand, the Great Kruger area, and then the biggest was actually in the Lower Zambezi National Park. There's so many buffalo there. Yeah, there are large groups, but I don't think I've even seen 1,000 buffalo together. Have you seen about 1,000 buffalo together here, man? Or not really? 200-300. Manu's saying about 200-300 is the average size herd that he's seeing, and I 100% agree with him. I would say exactly the same. And then even smaller groups, 50 or 60 buffalo here and there, and just laying down. But they would have woken up earlier this morning and grazed, and then they typically have a little rest again as midday comes around. But maybe they were busy. Maybe they've been chased around by lions all night, and that's why they're so tired. They seem to be very sleepy buffalo today. But maybe they'll make their way down to the marsh, have something more to eat, or perhaps they're just going to find better shady spots. Maybe a wallow to lay in. There's plenty of them around. It's the perfect habitat for the buffalo, for the egrets, for the elephants, for the hippos, for most of the animals out here. It is really, really beautiful. Bit of a haze, though, in the sky, but that should clear up. I think the sun will burn away these little clouds. Not many of them. They don't seem to be too threatening just yet. And then I think it's going to be a beautiful, clear day. I'm hoping for some more rain tonight, though. I really do hope so. There's some crowned cranes and herons flying, just coming up to the... There we go. All going about. That's the heron. Not shouting at lions this time. That is so difficult to do that. I don't know how Manu does it. It's impressive. And there go the crowned cranes. Look at the way they extend their neck out when they fly. Isn't that stunning? Some woolly-necked storks also popping into frame. Some more herons. Oh my goodness, cattle egrets. There's so many. African sacred ibis. It was black and grey, black-headed herons and grey herons flying around there. The grey herons are just slightly larger. Those are all the cattle egrets. All the ibises, woolly-necked storks again. Something must have stirred them in the marsh. And they were all down on the ground and now they're all up in the air. But it won't be too long before they decide to settle again. Oh. Wendy, you're wondering how on earth do I ID the birds while they're flying in the air? Experience. You can, it's easy to be able to go, it's that kind of species, but to be able to go, that's a heron. Sometimes it can be difficult to go, oh, that's a black-headed heron or a Goliath heron. So you're just looking at the wing shape, the way that they fly, so the So with butterflies, you would say the jizz, and with birds, it's okay to say that too. So the jizz, the motion that they're flying in, so the way they flap their wings, the shape of their beak, how they extend their necks out, all these different types of things. But it's something that you need to see on a regular basis. It's particularly difficult to ID raptors in the sky. It is so hard because when there's lots of juveniles around, they can confuse you with lots of other birds. Here we go, coming in for a landing now. Then a yellow-billed stork in there too, it looks like it. Lots and lots of different birds. There we go, so whatever stirred them is they're all settled down, landing in a big group again. Kristen, you're wondering if we've ever seen the cattle egrets sitting on the buffalo. So there they are flying, and there are actually quite a few cattle egrets resting up on the buffalo at the moment, just to the right. All these buffalo down here have got little white things on their backs. It's one of my favorite things that makes me giggle, although I laugh a lot. I like to laugh, and it is funny when they're walking, especially, and they're trying to hold on. My best is, and I still need to get it on screen, is to see the cattle egret sitting on the elephant's back like I used to see in the marshes of the Lozambizi National Park. That was really cool. So we'll try and get that. Every time I see them flying around the feet of the elephant, I always say they go, well, I basically say under my breath going, land on one, because it'll be quite nice to see. But there's so many different birds here that utilize the animals. Like I've never seen lilac-breasted roller sitting on buffalo before, or even an impala. There was one the other day sitting on an impala, which is amazing because we don't see that down in South Africa in the Sabi sand, and I've never seen it in the Eastern Cape either. So it's not to say that it doesn't happen, it's just that we're just not catching it. And perhaps because there's more open grasslands here, they've found a use and not too many perches to pop yourself on, which is typically what a lilac-breasted will do. It doesn't necessarily run after the buffalo. It sits in perches around animals and then hopes that something flies up within the vicinity, and then it will bomb dive down and try and catch it. I think they've worked out, cool, if I just sit on the back of a buffalo or an impala, there's my perch, and I can move with the animal, which is quite nice. So the lilac-breasted roller, for example, would use an animal differently to how cattle egret uses an animal. They feed on the floor. They don't catch things on the wing while they're flying, so they have to walk with the buffalo in order to collect any of the insects that are being chased out from underneath their hooves. So it's quite cool. And then, of course, you've got the oxpeckers that sit and feed on the buffalo. They're not feeding on the insects that they're disturbing. Wow, Keisha, you said, are there any seagulls here? You think you just saw one? Well, we're quite far from the ocean. I've never seen a seagull down here. I wonder if you were maybe looking at one of the cattle egrets, perhaps? I don't know what bird here resembles a seagull. But I don't think so. I think it was one of these other white birds. Probably a cattle egret or something flying about. I haven't seen any gannets or anything along here. I'm still waiting to see pelicans. That would be quite cool. Imagine seeing a flamingo just randomly somewhere. That would be amazing. I used to see so many flamingos in the Eastern Cape. It was incredible. Always used to see flamingos. But of course that was quite close to the coast, so it's to be expected. Very cool. Right, let's carry on though. We are searching for lions, surprisingly. That is our plan. But I don't know where they are. Thank goodness for all the other animals in between. Right, so something that I do a lot of is what Rolf is doing right now. Let's go and see if he's doing a Ferrari safari or perhaps just a Sunday bumble.
Yes, thanks, Taylor. Well, I think we're tending to be leaning towards a Sunday bumble. We've seen some... know if banded mongoose moving through, but I've lost sight of them now. They're in the thick grass. But what we do have is the giraffe moving in the background, their lovely silhouette against the backdrop of these Inselbergs, which is where I've come to search for the Kirk's grass, but those mongoose seem to have disappeared inside of it. So we just stopping every now and then just to have a quick search, just to have a scan, see if we can spot the elusive dik-diks that like these inselbergs and the thickets that go with them. But they are rather territorial, so once you find one, it's generally that they won't be going off too far away from where you saw them. So I have see if we can spot some more, but for the time being they are eluding us, but nonetheless we will continue and until we find one. There's been a pair that have been hanging around the camp as well where we stay. I see them most mornings. Safe away from predators, and so it's a shame that I can't have a camera on my head when I go for my coffee in the morning. Jerry, you're wondering what species of giraffe is this? It's called a Maasai giraffe. So slightly different to that of what we have in South Africa, but not very different. If you had to look at them, you would it's very difficult to tell between them. So, but that's what they call them here, the Maasai giraffe, but very similar to the ones that we have in South Africa. Sir Rory, you're making a fantastic comment that giraffe always lose at hide and seek. Well, I think they'll lose at the hiding part, but they might win at the seeking part, because it's very difficult to hide from giraffe. So they might find themselves on the losing side and on the winning side. But lovely comment there. Thank you for getting involved. Don't forget, folks, send us your questions and your comments, and we'll Now, Kobe, you're wondering, how do you tell the difference between a male and a female taupi? Kobe, who is 15 by the way, Kobe, you've got to look at the thickness of their horns, because both male and female with taupi do have horns very similar to that of gazelle or your springbok and wildebeest, etc. So what I often show people is, if you think of your two thumbs as being male and your two pinkies as being the female, but it's very difficult to tell if it's a male or female if it's standing on its own. But I can, like if I turn here now, an animal which is standing on its own like this, not in a group with no youngsters near it, without even going to look at, because he's standing on the top, guarantee you that that's going to be a male, because that's what males do. They stand up on their own, looking out over their little territory, and I'm pretty sure if we look closer we will be able to confirm this. So it's also around their behavior that you would note if it's a male or female. And for me, an animal or taupi standing on top of a mound like that looking out is most likely going to be a male, because the females, they're going to be in a group with their youngsters at this particular time, and so won't be wasting time like this male is doing, looking out over his territory. And I'm sure if we go up the side, you will see there's, on the males, they have a little flap halfway up the stomach. That's for their little penis, and that's where they wee from. So that's also a way to tell if it's male or female. Obviously the female won't have that little flap halfway up the stomach. So let's see if we can get up to the side of this taupi and you can actually see that little flap that I'm talking about. Now, Lorena, you're also saying that it looks like a goat. Well, that is also half the reason why a lot of the animals have the suffix bok, because bok, directly translated in Afrikaans, means What the early Afrikaans people sort of spoke about was that these animals are all derivatives of goat. So quite right, you do get the feeling that it does look a little bit like a goat. Now this topi is just watching us all the way as we go up the side here, and I just want to confirm that he's got a little penis flap. You know, he might, as animals do, throw me right off, and he might show me that he isn't even a male and that it's a female. In fact, it looks like it is potentially a female. So there goes my whole theory up the tree. But generally that is the case. It would normally be a male up on a mound like that. This one obviously not part of a breeding group, but this one has now landed up being a female. So there goes my theory, but generally that's what you would be able to do, is test that. But animals don't live in boxes, even though we like to put them in them, so that's why when we try and prove theories, animals always like to prove you wrong, and that's why I've just been proven wrong now. But this giraffe up ahead here was having a little drink of water. Very nice sight. Maybe we'll just stop and have a look if he'll calm down and do it again. Now, Jason, you're wondering if giraffe have alarm calls and if they can see from so high up. Well, Jason, they don't particularly have alarm calls because giraffe hardly make any sounds at all. They do every now and then make a little bit of a snort or a grunt, but they don't make an alarm call like the other animals do with their and very loud noises. No, giraffe they all center themselves. They all start to look at the target, and it's the target normally being that of a predator, and so in so doing they all watch each other. So it's all more about body language with giraffe and not about sounds. Now the reason I've stopped quite far away from this giraffe is because I want him to relax and go down for a drink, which is what he's thinking about doing, but he's also concerned with us. It's always difficult with giraffe because they are such procrastinators, and I'm sure if you've seen Madagascar, the animated movie, that portrayal of the character of giraffe is spot on, because you'll see that this massive animal is so scared of everything, even a little dove. But he is putting himself in quite a prone position in what he's doing now, doing the splits in the front and then having to bend. Now he is in the most vulnerable position that he could be in, because it very easily attacked by a predator. And so it's understandable why he takes his time going down for a drink, but it's also understandable why I need to stop so far away, because if I was closer he would not be relaxing and doing what he's doing now. So that's where we need to read their body language, because that's what he's doing with the other giraffe as well. Reading body language, because there's not much verbal communication, if any at all, between giraffe. A lovely head flick. Very often do that as well when they drink. Now, Tammy, you've commented that that is so beautiful in its natural habitat, and what better habitat could you have other than your natural habitat? This is where we want to see animals in their natural surroundings, in their natural habitat, free as they were meant to be, as we are meant to be. So that's a nice way to be sitting now, watching this giraffe, and everybody sending in their lovely comments and questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We still have a little bit of time left on our drive, and I am still wondering how to find these dik-dik. I'm going to drive on a little bit. you're wondering how the water goes up the giraffe's neck. Well, it would be going up the giraffe's neck when its head is down, but they also do stand up. So they've got a gullet, much like we do as humans, so he can use the sucking force to get the water into his mouth, but then once he swallows, obviously that will then go into the throat and go down the rest of the pipe. And it's like any mammal drinking, very similar with the gullet, and once it's swallowed, and then obviously once it puts its head up, then it's very much easier for it. But you can still drink water upside down. It just doesn't feel that, it feels a little bit strange, but you can. They do have is very special valves in the neck that stop the head from exploding and all the blood rushing to its head when they lean down for a drink. So that's very important for them, but the normal drinking process is quite similar to that of ours. So we're into this little Inselberg areas, and my feeling attached here for little Dick. Difficult to spot, especially when they're standing still, and they're normally just in between these thickets here. So that's what we're just doing now, just driving slowly as we're seeing a number of giraffe here just in front of us. I might stop next to them and we have a look, and then we can see if there's any dicks around. So I'm going to move up here over to Taylor and see how well she's getting along.
Well, we're just having a look at the moment. There's a lot of vehicles just driving around here, which I'm keeping my eye on, and I suspect that's because they're lions. I would imagine that that is the case. However, I don't know how we're going to get there. We can go and try our luck, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get close enough, I'm afraid. We're gonna go up and have a look and see if there's a road that takes us that way. Looks like there might be a 2-track here, but as you can see, there's so many cars. My absolute favorite thing. We have to just wait for everybody to come past and let everyone have a chance. Now we wait. Ooh. Brad, you're wondering what animal do I want to see in the Mara that I have not seen yet before I go back to South Africa? Everyone's now greeting one another, handshakes and all these types of things. I'm trying to think. You know what I didn't realize that I've actually seen was a aardwolf, and I think I told you about obviously seeing it. I found a video on my phone that we took. It was in night vision, which was quite cool. So I've seen that. I'd like to see a caracal. Caracal would be a really nice one. I'm going to put some pressure here. A caracal would be a great one to see. I know Jamie and Brent have seen them. I, however, have not. Right, now this is going to be fun. Lots and lots of cars. Everybody keep going. Not yet. Manu hasn't seen an aardwolf. They're quite cool. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about that one, Brad, and then I'll have to get back to you. Seen bat-head foxes, which was epic. They were great. Lots of servals. Seen plenty of them. Seen springheads, which I haven't seen for ages either. I've been quite lucky. I've seen a lot of the creatures that I haven't seen for a while up here in the Mara, which is quite nice. Wild dog. Imagine seeing the wild dog that every now and then pop up into the Masai Mara National Reserve and up here in the corner of the triangle. That would be exceptional. They really would be great. So, running through and chasing prey. Can you imagine them? It's so open. Oh my goodness, it would be so easy to follow wild dogs here. That would be great. That's what I'd like to see, Brad, is wild dogs up here. And I'm sure Brent would... Everyone. Brent, Ralph, Jamie, James, Scott, they all would agree with me and say that wild dog would be a pretty cool one to see up here. Otherwise, maybe some more of the rodents, perhaps? I always enjoy seeing them. Okay, well, we're going to try and navigate into the sighting. I just want to make sure that the animals have got enough room. Otherwise, Giraffe. Let's go and see if he's staring them eye to eye or if he's looking up at them.
Thanks, Taylor. And yeah, we are witnessing a whole journey of giraffe here, but we've centered our focus onto these males because they seem like they are ready for a little bit of a battle. And while we've been waiting for you, Archie and I have been going fight, 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 fight. But we're wondering which one is going to be the winner. So you tell us, which one do you think looks the more grisly or the more battle-hardened? And which one do you think is going to win here? I'm putting my money on the darker one on the right. Thrown. Here comes another one. And there's a few females around, and I think that's what's got these males fighting. They're all after the prize, and that be the lady. Maybe the battle has been won before it's even started, or have they just spoken about it and resolved their problems through words? Right, but it was the lighter one. I'm going with this darker one now, closer to us. RSF, you're saying you're going for the bigger one, and that was the lighter one, I think. So I think the easiest way for us to identify here is the light one versus the darker one. Otherwise we might be getting a bit confused, but it seems the battle has begun now, for real. There's always a little bit of pretending that you're not fighting and just normal giraffe behavior right in the midst of the battle. But then once you get the head knocks going again, you realize that they are fully immersed. And if we listen carefully, and that's remember, for any new viewers or anybody that doesn't fall down to a bit of a dominance battle between two males, and normally around when there's females and the females are in estrus, so they are ready to take on a mate, and then the males fight for it. Now, R. Laura Moore, you're saying that giraffe always seem to move in slow motion for you. Yeah, it can seem that way, doesn't it? I mean, even when they're in battle, it can seem like they're a bit in slow motion. But it seems that these two are hardened fighters because they are dodging the punches as well. See, as that one comes in, and you see how they push each other with the rump too, but there's a lot of swinging. And it can seem a little bit nondescript sometimes, but there will be dominance. Lovely to watch all the same. And they start to push each other with the club at the end of their head, with the ossicles used as the final edge of the battering ram. All very gentlemanlike, isn't it? Very nice way of fighting. Sorry, Rebecca, I'll answer your question now. I'm just wondering, there was a noise that came out of the thickets here, and these giraffe got a terrible fright. It almost sounded like there was an elephant, but I'm not sure. It was, and you can see how the giraffe, obviously they were immersed in battle, but there was some kind of small alarm call here, and they forgot about their worries with each other and ran off for safety. Now everybody's confused as to what was going on. Now, Rebecca, with all that excitement, I've forgotten what your question is, so I'm just going to ask Faith. Yes, they can. They can draw blood, and they can also knock each other out, which is what I have witnessed. So a giraffe can be quite nasty to each other, as we see these two now possibly squaring up again, but I think that maybe the fright that they had from the alarm call here in the bushes maybe have changed their minds. Nope, they're back at it. This is unfinished business, I think. So a lovely sight, regardless of them being a river, and the slow motion battle continues. Jason, you're wondering why the giraffe don't kick each other and why they fight with their necks. Well, for the time being, it is the easiest way for them to actually enforce their dominance on each other, because kicking is a little bit more difficult for them to actually get to each other. So folks, as these giraffe now just move off a little bit towards the river, I'm going to try and investigate what was making that noise in the bushes that the giraffe got a fright from. And while I'm doing that, let's send you on over to Taylor.
We always knew they were here. We always knew they were here. It was just in a very awkward spot to try and get to. And unfortunately, the grass is particularly tall here, and they're sitting under the shade of a tree, which is where I think that they will remain for most of the morning. So they definitely came from the forest and they made their way down. So where we were looking this morning was the right spot for the Angama pride. And I don't know what they took or what they caught. One lioness looked like not too fat, but they look like they've maybe eaten something small. Maybe they all got a mouthful. But as you can see, it's not the greatest sighting, I'm afraid. But they'll be here this afternoon. Manu, here we go. Here comes another one coming out to the left. So I think the whole pride is spread out around in this lugger. It's actually a pity it's so sheltered here, because the breeze is really cooling today. And I think they need that. Well, I most certainly would. But you can see that little pot belly that they have, the youngsters have. And if they've got a little pot belly, then the adults almost certainly would have got something in as well, which is good news. Good news for us. Now this is going to be an exceptionally busy sighting, I'm afraid. We're going to have lots of cars driving in and out, so I'm not staying here for very long. We will come back this afternoon. Lou, you said that you love cats, and you said thank you very much. You don't need to thank me. You can thank nature for being wonderful and actually revealing themselves. However, what we will do is that there are lots of people who have traveled from all over the world to come and see these beautiful creatures. So what I might do is, it's a very limited view. I might actually give them a turn, because we can always come back in the afternoon. And also you can imagine we're just going to hear the rumbling of car engines and people talking, because everybody's parking on one another. So on that happy note, let's make our way out. So I don't want to crowd these animals. You know what I'm like. I'll give them a bit of room. Not that they were crowding them. It's just it's such a small spot. And we see lions all the time. We're so lucky. We're very lucky to see these big cats. So we'll make sure the guys that aren't living in the Mara get a chance to see them, so they can go home and show all their friends and family their most amazing pictures. But just a quick glimpse though. And at least one of them came out to say hello very quickly. But we'll head elsewhere. We'll try again from that leopard. I spoke to Noah now again, my ranger friend. He's just up in front of us. In fact, we had a chat with him. he said that leopard got very scared and actually ran away. So I'm glad we didn't go in. There wasn't, obviously not a very relaxed male, but maybe we'll find him sitting under one of those trees this afternoon. We'll go and do a proper search. And with, well, Manu's eyes, and hopefully my eyes, and my left one is now starting to not be so swollen anymore, put so many eye drops in. Between the two of us, we will be able to find the lions. See, everybody's exciting now. You see all the cars we're passing by. Noah's restricting the amount of people from going into that sighting. So everybody has to wait and be patient, and then they'll get their chance. So that's why I said let's let everybody else come on through. We'll give them a chance, and then we'll hopefully have it when it gets a bit better later this afternoon. Now, Debbie, you're wondering if any of the lion prides in the Mara mingle. Typically, different prides of lions wouldn't. They would fight, even the females would fight one another. However, with some lions swimming across the Mara River and into the triangle, the marsh breakaways, there seems to be two different groups. The two lionesses that live in the marsh that I love, and then the three lions. Then also the Angamas. We see them and the marsh breakaways and those other two females in relatively close proximity to one another. So somewhere along the line, I don't know, they must know each other, otherwise they wouldn't tolerate one another. So yeah, so there's sort of like three prides, if you will, of lions that are just in this section here, in this northeastern corner of the triangle. But like I said, even the females will fight and to try and chase off other females. It explains why there weren't so many animals on the escarpment this morning. The lions are so close. They've obviously chased them around a little bit. I don't know if they maybe caught a young zebra, or there were lots of topi around. There's always earland, waterbuck, buffalo. I haven't seen any buffalo calves up here. This seems to be the land of the Duggar boys though. The big bulls like to rest up here. Well, this is going to be an interesting angle to try and get through. Oh, it's actually not that bad. Wait, with all the road repairs, there's lots of... Wee, go around. Okay. Jenny, you're wondering if you think we're going to see a lion and leopard interaction. Definitely a possibility. I've seen it many times. One of the leopards I actually saw was it the first time? No, it was like the second time or so. It was a shepherd tree male, and we spotted him because we'd seen lions. Well, Richard Askari had seen lions far kilometers away, and we showed you we're actually looking at elephants. So it was quite a cool sighting. We got them, and we looked at them, and then we said, right, that's the direction we're going to have to head in. Anyways, we went around, and then I finally, after probably about 15 minutes of driving, we really had to go the scenic way around. I thought, oh, there she is, or there they are, they're the girls. It was a big male leopard that ended up walking towards us, and he was chased off his kill by those two lionesses. So we see lion and leopard interaction a lot in the Sabi sand. I can't tell you how many sightings I've had. When I was guiding down at Sabi, we had the Charleston males, two big male lions, in a tree with Mashabeni, Little Bush, and her cub. Little Bush is Mvula's mom. She also goes as the outcrop female, I think. There's another one of her names. We called her Little Bush. And yeah, so you've seen that. It's quite common that lions, if they see a kill in the tree, they'll actually try and go for it and try and steal it. And call that kleptomania. Hyenas, of course, are specialists at stealing other creatures' kills, but lions do it, leopards do it, you know, jackals of course will do it to an extent. They are much smaller than leopards, lions and hyenas, but they'll definitely give it a bash. So yeah, here the animals are starting to come back now. Oh my goodness, when last did you see a wildebeest? Hey Manu, it's been quite some time. I can't remember. Oh well, I suppose I see them every day, but I don't often pay attention to them. They blend in so well with the butterflies. Not the butterflies. A wildebeest most certainly does not look anything like a butterfly. I mean to say a buffalo. The other animal that starts with a B. Let's have a look at them. We've got some topi fighting over a termite mound. Hi zebra. Wave at the zebra. Let's quickly say hello to the wildebeest very quickly. They're coming down towards us, so we better not be 7 wildebeest. Here's a big boy. Hello. Wait. Oh no, sorry. I know the car doesn't like to stay in gear. That was me giving the buffalo. What is wrong with me? The wildebeest a fright. It's the big bull. That's cool. I love the shiny coats. They've got the most beautiful coloration. But it is nice to see them. I do miss seeing them in groups of thousands and hundreds and just completely covering the ground. But they're being attacked by flies at the moment, and so are we. So while I keep swatting away the biting flies and to try and do what the wildebeest are doing, Ralph has found another animal that doesn't really let the flies bother it.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, and now you are looking at the reason why those giraffe got a fright. I had my suspicions that it was elephant, but I then thought differently because the giraffe were sort of way too worried. But I think it was just the particular noise that the elephants made that made the giraffe scuttle off. But they are still there in the background now, continuing with their fight. And it seems to be getting a little bit more serious now. And so I think the bets are pretty good. And my money's still on the darker one. But it's been a wonderful drive this morning. We've seen a range of different animals. Unfortunately, a little bit of the rain got the better of Djuma, but we can't complain because South Africa really needs all the rain it can get. We have been in the throes of a very devastating drought, so we cannot complain. When there's rain around, it might have affected the transmission. Continue up here in the Mara, and we hope that they get lots more rain down south. So folks, we're heading towards the end of the game drive this morning. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Scott and Nikki up there in South Africa, and thanks to everyone here in Kenya. We would love for everybody to join us again this afternoon. Thank you to all the viewers, and we hope that you have a lovely day.